Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm very honored today to be joined by members of the largest statewide law enforcement association in the nation. The Peace Officers Research Association of California, also known as PORAC, is the voice of over 70,000 law enforcement professionals in California. And they are joining me in sponsoring SB 416, a bill that will help rectify an inequity in providing protections to our law enforcement personnel across the state. Our state's peace officers work tirelessly to protect us and keep us safe every single day. We owe it to these officers in turn to do what we can to protect them. I grew up with two friends that were in my class in elementary school. One was named Raul Delgadillo and another one named Jaime Limon. And I remember while doing their jobs as law enforcement, they became police officers. And I had the opportunity to see them in action one day while I was in my community. I remember the first instance, Jaime Limon was doing an apprehension of a person in the district. And I remember being compelled to stop. I was driving along the community and I remember feeling compelled to stop. I said, "Hey, that's my friend and he's involved in an altercation." And it was a very difficult one. And I remember being really shaken by that and thinking, that's my friend. What a difficult job he has. And then again, I saw my other friend, Raul Delgadillo, in another similar incident in the same neighborhood. And they were out there doing their jobs, keeping our community safe. And I remember being really shaken by that, thinking, if I'm their friend, feeling worried about them, what must their family feel like every day when these police officers go out and they do their jobs? And I've also seen police officers go out to do their jobs and not come home. And it's something that is been particularly moving for me to see that we have individuals in our community that are willing to go out every day and risk and make the ultimate sacrifice in names of upholding the law and keeping the peace in our neighborhood. So when I saw that there's an inequity in the way that we provide care for our officers in this state, I wanted to rise up to the challenge to correct that inequity and make sure that all officers, regardless of what agency they work for, have these protections. I wish that we in our state continue not to create a differentiation and say that you're more important in this agency than you are in this agency. It's about time in California that we create and solve this inequity. Currently, this inequity exists in workers' compensation. Workers' compensation is something that every worker in California should be entitled to, especially those who inherently put themselves in harm's way to do the right thing while they're at work. Currently, as I mentioned, the law discriminates against some police officers based on their employer. If you work for this agency or that agency, you get the worker protection. If you don't, you don't. And I don't know why that ever was created in law, why that ever came to be, but I only know that I think it's unfair and that we need to correct it. And this bill would allow, should a peace officer come into contact with a certain disease or a condition that could have resulted in work, that they will be provided the opportunity to get treatment and go through the assessment and leave the job and draw the workers' compensation benefit, so they don't necessarily have to go out of business or lose their homes and lose their incomes because simply they're not afforded that opportunity. I think it's wrong that our officers are currently being placed in that situation. We need to fix that, and they deserve at least the benefit of the doubt to go through that process and draw down that benefit. So that their finances and incomes are not imperiled. We currently have a problem getting people into the law enforcement community right now. We have vacancies in almost every single department across our county and across our state, and we have to work hard at retention, and we can't lose the officers that we already have through an unfair condition that we have. I have with me today members of PORAC. We have Jesus Montana, PJ Webb, and so we're going to have beginning Jesus Montana make some comments, and then we're going to have PJ Webb make some comments into why this bill is important and how it affects them currently and how this bill would solve the problem. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Jesus Montana. I'm a police sergeant for the San Diego Unified School District Police Department. I'm also the state director of PORAC, the Peace Officers Research Association of California. And first and foremost, I would like to thank Senator Hueso for sponsoring this bill. It is true that there is an inequity, though I don't believe intentional, but there is an inequity when it comes to our peace officers and making sure they're taken care of while they serve our communities. To give you an understanding of how we came where we are, a little bit of history. The work comp system is a very old system. And when it was created at a time where peace officers all fell under one category. Well, with evolution, we separated the different categories into subsections based on the special services that each department provides, such as the airport police, port, school police, colleges, and universities. Each have their own agencies. And then also we have other specialized agencies such as probation and public assistance, or also known as welfare fraud investigators. Each of these officers have to enter into areas of danger, not just the dangers you see in the movies of shots being fired, but those unforeseen dangers as in medical conditions. Being a specialized agency, these officers work in special areas where there's a lot of carcinogens, as an example. Universities, colleges, even high schools have chemicals that officers have to go into in the event of an alarm, fire alarm, intrusion, sometimes without having the ability to put on safety suits to protect them, and then they have to go through the medical treatments. The difference between them and a municipal, such as the city police or sheriffs, is for the city police and sheriffs, it is presumed that their injury was based on the job they performed. For everyone else, any other specialized law enforcement officers, they have to prove that that injury or that illness was caused due to that work that they've been doing over an amount of years. An example also would be the lower back injury that's caused by the duty belts that officers must wear, also known as the bat belt. Has a lot of equipment, very heavy. My belt weighs about 20 pounds, as well as along with my vest, which is another 10 to 15 pounds. That goes my back, and over the years, my back is pretty much injured where I have to go through pain every day. But I have to prove that that lower back injury was caused by that belt. And it's not until I prove it that I get authorized to medical treatments. So that prolongs those treatments, and therefore my pain gets worse, my injuries gets worse, and in the end it costs even more to receive those treatments. My other options is to go through my personal medical treatments, but I have to be out for the leave, because I can't be out in this community trying to protect the community when I can't even service them correctly and potentially placing them in more harm. As a police officer, officers are held at a much higher threshold to meet before they're released from a physician to go back out in the field. That time that it takes is time that I must use my own personal leave, of sick leave or vacation if I have any left, and if I run out, I go without pay. That's a severe inequity, because if I was a municipal, my counterparts, or when I used to work for the sheriff's department, I would not have to prove any of that, and I would be treated immediately, and I would be made sure that I'm whole and able to return quickly back to the field and continue serving our communities. To further give additional information as to what this legislation will do, I'll turn it over to PJ Webb, also from PORAC and LA Schools.
Thank you, Jesus. I do want to start off also by thanking Senator Hueso for authoring this bill. This is going to go a long way to fix a lapse in our legislation, our current legislation. I just want to touch on real quick, this doesn't cover every condition and every illness and that exists. There's very specific conditions that the Labor Code currently provides to safety personnel, peace officers, firefighters, that sort of thing. But like Jesus said, it's very specific as to which peace officer and which firefighter and that sort of thing. To give an example, another example, if you've all heard of a SRO, a school resource officer, that's typically when you have, let's say the San Diego Police Department maybe, assigns an officer to a school. Well, they do the same job as San Diego School Police Department does, or LA School Police Department. However, if that officer contracts any of the illnesses or conditions that are covered by this, that municipal police officer would be protected, and his family would be protected by the current workers' comp laws. However, if that were to happen to Jesus or another officer that is employed by a school police department or community colleges or welfare fraud, they wouldn't get those same protections. This is simply, I believe, just a lapse. It's legislation not keeping up with other legislation as it evolves. But what this bill will actually do, what it will do is it will extend those same protections that apply to peace officers to every peace officer that's defined by California state law and the penal code right now. The state determines who is a peace officer based on their responsibilities and duties, and they mandate the standardized training for those folks because they understand they're going to encounter the similar things as every other peace officer. So this just brings them both in line. The penal code, the way what they define, what the state currently considers to be a peace officer, and the workers' comp laws that protect them as safety personnel. So another advantage of this that I just want to point out also is that when employees are when a claim is accepted by workers' comp, they are automatically entered into an independent medical review process. And what this does is this is an independent third-party medical professional that ensures that everything is on track for this employee and ensures that they are getting the treatment that they need in a timely manner and ensures that they get back to work as quickly as possible. So this is an advantage to our public also, a public safety issue, because it gets our folks that are off the street because they're injured back at work much quicker. So thank you for your time.